There are 3,006 famous hutongs, and the unnamed hutongs outnumber the others. Among the thousands of hutongs in Beijing, there is a north-south alley near the imperial city Nanluoguxiang, which is connected to the hutongs on the east and west sides. It looks like a centipede, so it is also called Centipede Street. Up to now, this block still maintains the regulations of the squares and alleys of the capital city of the Yuan dynasty, and is a typical representative of the alleys in the old city of Beijing. 01. Centipede comes from the system of lane slash. The street is very straight, and one end can be seen from the other end, and it is arranged so that one gate can look at the other gate from the street. The ground plan of the whole city is like a chessboard, and its beauty is beyond words. The description of the capital of the Yuan dynasty in K. Polo's journey. The streets of the capital city of the Yuan dynasty in his works are straight, horizontal, and vertical like a chessboard, forming lanes and alleys. Lane is a uniform regulation. There is such a record in Analysis of Jinji, street system. From south to north, it is called the meridian; from east to west, it is called the latitude. The main street is 24 steps wide, and the small street is 12 steps wide. 384 fire alleys, 29 alleys. After the completion of the metropolis, the front is the imperial city, and the back is the residential area and the market. The residential area is divided into 49 square communities called fangs. Each square is divided into units by several hutongs. In this way, the chessboard described by Marco Polo is formed. Presumably, when he was looking down from a high place, he thought that squares were grids, and streets and alleys were lines. Nanluoguxiang belongs to Zhao Huifang, located in the central area of Yuandatu. In the Ming dynasty, Nanluoguxiang became the dividing line between Zhao Huifang and Jinggongfang. To this day, it still maintains a layout of 8 parallel and opposite hutongs on the east and west sides with Nanluoguxiang as the main trunk. Nanluoguxiang on the street map of Beijing in 1938, photo courtesy of Beijing Local Chronicles. Nanluoguxiang looks straight, but the terrain is high in the middle and low in the north and south. Looking at the area around Nanluoguxiang, it looks like an upside-down pot, high in the middle and low around, and the opposite alleys are like handles on the side of the pot. Therefore, Nanluoguxiang was nicknamed Luoguxiang in Ming dynasty. Legend has it that during the Jianlong period of the Qing dynasty, Luoguo Lane clashed with the nickname Luoguo of the academician Lu Yong, and Emperor Jianlong felt that the name of Luoguo Lane was too vulgar, so Lu Yong had an idea and renamed it Luogu Lane with its homonym. What's more interesting is that overlooking Nanluoguxiang, there are 16 hutongs arranged in an orderly manner on its east and west sides. From a distance, it looks like a huge centipede lying quietly here, so it is also called Centipede Alley. 02. A centipede with 8 pairs of legs slash. Nanluoguxiang runs from south to north, and the 8 alleys on the east side are Kaita Hutong, Bankhang Hutong, Dongmianhua Hutong, Bibing Meizai Hutong, Qinlao Hutong, Qinyuanansi Hutong, Haoiwanansi Hutong, and Juer Hutong. The 8 hutongs on the west side are Fuxiang Hutong, Maoai Hutong, Yuer Hutong, Maoer Hutong, Jingyang Hutong, Sheijing Hutong, Heizhima Hutong, and Qiangiluyuan Hutong. The names of these alleys gradually evolved after the Ming dynasty, and the names of the Yuan dynasty are no longer available. Some hutongs get their names from the buildings inside them. For example, there is a Fuxiang temple in Fuxiang Hutong, which was built by an eunuch surnamed Wu to celebrate Ming Yingzong's birthday. The anti-Japanese general Wang Shiqian once lived in the alley. There used to be a Suyi temple in Suyi Hutong, where Pu Yuran, the younger brother of Puyi, the last emperor of the Qing dynasty, lived. There are also former Yuan Temple Hutong and Ho Yuan Temple Hutong named after Yuan Temple. Bibing Meizai Hutong was named after Baikan Bingmeici in Ming dynasty. In the Ming dynasty, Bingmeici was responsible for public security management and arresting criminals, and at the same time cleaned the streets, put out fires, and managed vendors. In the Qianlong period of the Qing dynasty, it was called Bingmeici Hutong, and the current Central Academy of Drama is located in this alley. Some hutongs get their names from homonyms. For example, Black Sesame Hutong was called Heizhima Hutong in Ming dynasty. Taoism was prevalent in the Ming dynasty, and people often used paper horses to sacrifice to ghosts and gods. It is said that there was a man surnamed He in Heizhima Hutong, who made paper horses for a living, so he was called Heizhima, and the homonym was changed to Black Sesame. Inside the alley is the residence of Kui Jun, Minister of Internal Affairs during the Guangxu period of the Qing dynasty. The Qiangguluan Hutong was called the Orphanage Alley because there was a nursing home in the Ming Dynasty, because Gulu and are homophonic, and the alley is close to the drum tower. Some Hutong names have not been changed since the Ming Dynasty, such as Kayadu Hutong and Mao'er Hutong. In Mao'er Hutong, there used to be Taoist buildings such as Wenchang Palace, Dolao Palace, and Xianyu Palace, but there are no traces of them now. The former residence of the Queen Wanrong, the Wenchang Emperor's Temple, and the Yamen of the Qing Dynasty infantry commander have all been preserved to this day. Some alleys have been renamed several times. For example, Zhu'er Hutong was called Zhu'er Hutong in the Ming Dynasty, Zhu'er Hutong in the Qianlong period of the Qing Dynasty, and Zhu'er Hutong in the Xiantong period. In addition to the mansion of Ronglu, the governor of Zhili in the Qing Dynasty and the scholar of Wenhuadian University, it is said that there used to be a temple in Zhu'er Hutong. The monk Kaishan in the temple was the emperor's substitute monk. Bankhang Hutong was called Bankhang Hutong in Qianlong period of Qing Dynasty, and Bankhang Hutong in Xiantong period. Jingyang Hutong was called Suanjiajing in the Ming Dynasty, and was renamed Jing'er Hutong in the Qing Dynasty, and later changed to Jingyang Hutong due to the same name. Sheijing Hutong was called Sheijia Hutong before Xiantong of Qing Dynasty. Yu'er Hutong was called Yulong Hutong in Ming Dynasty. Cotton Alley was changed to East Cotton Alley due to the same name. Message content 03. There are many mansions in secluded alleys. In the Hutongs of the Nanluoguxiang area, there are different types of courtyard gatehouses, because this place has always been the residence of dignitaries during the Ming and Qing dynasties. There are countless mansions and mansions, which have witnessed the rise and fall of several generations of dynasties. The defeat of Songjian is a heartbreak, and the pity is like a prisoner in Chu. Today, the Zuman only have hatred, and they endured death and lived as a second minister. This was the evaluation of Hong Chengzhou by many people in the Qing dynasty. Hong Chengzhou was the governor of Jiliao in the Ming dynasty. He was defeated and captured in the Songjian battle in the 8th year of Chongzhen, 1635, and returned to the Qing dynasty. He made many military exploits. The Qing court treated Hong Chengzhou kindly and generously, and named the Prince Taibao. Hong Chengzhou's mansion is at number 59 Nanluoguxiang. Kayadu Hutong number 77 and Bankhang Hutong number 30 to number 34 seem to be two separate courtyards, but in fact they were once connected and lived in a well-known figure in the late Qing dynasty, the famous monk King Sen Jelinkin. He is the second and last hereditary Mongolian prince since the founding of the Qing dynasty. Sen Jelinkin is the 26th generation grandson of Genghis Khan's younger brother Habutu Hasar. He was a famous general in the late Qing dynasty. He participated in many battles against the invasion of the British and French allied forces. It was the first major victory of the Qing army against foreign aggression since then. The Senglinken mansion is so large that it occupies almost an entire street. In addition, Mr. Mao Dun, a famous modern writer, also lived here. In 1974, he moved to number 13 Haoiwensi Hutong until his death in 1981. The screen wall in the courtyard is inlaid with the 4 characters Mao Dun's former residence inscribed by Deng Yingqiao in 1982. In 1986, a bust of Mr. Mao Dun carved from white marble was in the front yard to commemorate this modern literary giant. For more than 700 years, the Nanluoguxiang area has become a historical stage. Every Hutong here has left a strong color of history, accumulated layers of historical memories, constantly showing people the past of Old Beijing, and adding a unique cultural charm to Beijing, a 1,000-year-old capital. As we all know, Li Bai is good at writing love poems. What is Lang rides a bamboo horse, and grows green plums around the bed, Long Gan seen, when, spring thoughts, Li Bai came as soon as he opened his mouth. The key point is that any one of these poems can be regarded as popular. The subtle yet delicate and gentle expression is quite different from Li Bai's free and unrestrained temperament. But if you think that Li Bai is in the style of literature, art, and lyricism, then you are very wrong. Because, once Brother Renbei becomes straightforward and bold, it will make many people blush and heartbeat. If you don't believe me, just read on. It is said that around the 19th year of Kaiwan, 731, of Emperor Xianzong of Tang Dynasty, Li Bai lived in Luoyang and Nanyang at this time. What are you doing? Everyone can guess it without saying it, please ask the official. Li Bai really has the spirit of do not hit the south wall and never look back when he is an official. However, he was at ease and happy, but he suffered from his wife Su, who was looking forward to her husband's return every day at home. Su is the granddaughter of Su Yu, the late prime minister of the Joseon dynasty, and Li Bai's first wife. Su's family is prominent, and he has both talent and appearance. After marrying Li Bai, the two were also quite affectionate. Soon, they had a son and a daughter. The son's name was Boken, nicknamed Minjiunu, and the daughter's name was Pingyang. It can be described as a big good. However, Li Bai couldn't suppress his eagerness to be an official. If he wants to flick off his clothes after something has happened, and hide his body and reputation, he must first become an official and have a reputation. So I ran around every day without staying home. Su loves her husband deeply, so although she feels miserable in her heart, she never complains. Li Bai probably also knew it. Once, he wrote a song giving inside with guilt. For 360 days, I was as drunk as mud every day. Although she is Li Bai's wife, he is a very common wife. Taekang's wife, it is said that in the Eastern Han Dynasty, there was a Taekang, official name, in charge of the emperor's rites, music, and sacrifices, named Josie. He was addicted to alcohol and often did not return home. Once, when his wife went to see him, Josie was furious and sent his wife to jail. Li Bai said, 360 days a year, I get drunk every day. Even though you are my wife, Li Bai, what is the difference between you and Jo Taekang's wife who spends her whole day away from home? Of course, if you say it is guilt, the whole poem is still lively and lively. Mr. Poetry thinks that when Su saw such a poem, he probably couldn't laugh or cry. In 731 AD, Li Bai was away from home for a long time again. Mostly it is because the application for an official is not smooth, and the scenery of other places can easily arouse people's homesickness. During this period, Li Bai wrote many poems intermittently, expressing his longing for his wife and family. There are 12 poems in total, one said 11 poems, titled Send Away. Due to limited space, it is impossible to appreciate and analyze them one by one, but one of them is the most distinctive. That is the seventh part of Send Far. The concubine is in the east of Chongling, and the king lives on Hanjiang Island. Looking at the flowers in a day, the traffic becomes white. One is the cloud and rain, autumn grass grows here. Autumn grass and autumn moths fly, love sickness and sorrow fall. Why meet each other, put out the candle and untie the clothes? There are two different places. First, this poem is based on the tone of gift from generation to generation. That is, a poem written by Li Bai on behalf of his wife. Some circles are not. In fact, the whole poem expresses his longing for Li Bai in Su's tone. As a matter of fact, whether he thinks about it or not is all Li Bai's imagination. After all, his poetry, he calls the shots. Second, this poem has changed from the implicitness of Li Bai's previous love poems, and is very straightforward and bold, even explicit. The concubine is in the east of Chongling, and the king lives on Hanjiang Island. Chongling is located in Zhejiang City, Hubei province today. Hanjiang Island is probably the place where Li Bai lived at that time, but the place name cannot be found now. In short, the first two sentences express the extreme distance between the two. Looking at the flowers in a day, the journey is white. For this reason, as his wife, Su went to the village to wait every day, looking forward to the autumn water. One is the cloud and rain, autumn grass grows here. Autumn grass and autumn moths fly, love sickness and sorrow fall. I don't know how many years have passed since we parted on that day, and the days seem like years. Here, the continuous autumn grass has grown. In the autumn grass, autumn moths fly around. The setting sun is slanting to the west, illuminating my deep lovesickness. Why do we meet each other? Extinguish the candle and untie the clothes. When will you and I meet again? In the night scene on a good day, blow out the candles, take off the clothes, and continue the lingering love of the past. The whole poem, especially the last 10 characters, is indeed written very straightforwardly and boldly. For this reason, it was also criticized by some poetry critics. For example, in his Jingzai Ancient and Modern, Yellow Lord, Li Ji, the Jinren, denounced Li Bai's poem Drunk in the Bosom at the Tortoise Shell Banquet, What is the King under the Hibiscus Tent, the delicious food of Langdon in the morning, and the brocade quilt of Mandarin ducks in the evening, are already extremely obscene, yet Zion autumn grass and autumn butterflies fly, love sickness and sorrow fall. Why do we meet each other, put out the candle and untie the ropes? Translated into vernacular is, Li Bai, you are already very dissolute when you write verses like how can the king be at the bottom of the lotus tent? You actually wrote such a poem as extinguish the candle and untie the clothes. How can you show it to future generations in the future? Li Ji's criticism and worries are not without reason. But Li Bai is a man of temperament. He is a vanished immortal, free and unrestrained, bound by various dogmas in the common world. To him, it is just a passing cloud. What's more, these poems are written for my wife, and they are above board, so there is no need to be too demanding about their lack of subtlety. Sungyang Gatso has a poem. How much love is left in the world, and the floating world is ready for thousands of changes. Do happy things with lovers, don't ask whether it is fate or calamity. The world is impermanent, time flows, and the time for people to get together is short. The desire for infinite love, the desire to be near, has no shame. Compared with being timid and secretive, those who are bold, enthusiastic, and frank are always more aspirational. Just one point, Mr. Shisai couldn't help but slander. It's obviously your own little thought, Li Bai, but you still want to put it on your wife's head. Isn't that a bit cheeky? Oh, by the way, there is a more subtle version of Li Bai's poem. Master Poetry has reason to believe that later generations also felt that the original version was too bold, so they polished it up a bit. The concubine is in the east of Chongling, and the king lives on Hanjiang Island. Picking mulberry every day, and going up the mountain to form a white road. One is the cloud and rain, autumn grass grows here. In the past, we went hand in hand, but today we return with tears. Knowing that he is not satisfied, Jade Chopsticks point Luo Yi. In 1643, Chongzhen made a private visit in Weifu. Passing a character testing booth, Chongzhen asked a fortune teller to test the characters. Unexpectedly, the fortune teller refused to charge money after finishing the word test. Chongzhen had just walked a few steps when the fortune teller murmured in a low voice, I dare not accept money from a dying person. 1. When Zhu Yuxiao ascended the throne, Chongzhen was only 10 years old. One day, Chongzhen blinked his big eyes and asked mischievously, Brother Emperor, can I do this official? After a few years, I will let you do it. Unexpectedly, Zhu Yuxiao's unintentional words became a prophecy. In 1627, the 23-year-old Zhu Yuxiao was seriously ill. Since he had no heirs, Zhu Yuxiao had to pass the throne to Chongzhen. Before dying, Zhu Yuxiao asked Chongzhen to reuse Wei Zhongxian, and Chongzhen fully agreed. Unexpectedly, as soon as Chongzhen succeeded to the throne, Wei Zhongxian and his henchmen were immediately taken over. In Chongzhen's view, the decline of the Ming dynasty was inseparable from the eunuchs taking power. After cutting off Wei Zhongxian, Chongzhen made great efforts to govern, hoping to revive the former glory of the Ming dynasty. He gets up every day when the cock crows, and reads the memorials until late at night. No matter how cold or hot, he never stops his morning court. Chongzhen's diligence is not only unique among the emperors of the Ming dynasty, but also praised by his ministers as seldom seen since the Han and Tang dynasties. However, all this seems unable to reverse the decline of Daming. 2. However, Chongzhen did not give up, but placed his hopes on sacrifices and prayers. He firmly believed that, as the Son of Heaven, with a pious heart, he would be blessed by God and bring good luck to the country. There were indeed many visions in Chongzhen's body. Before ascending the throne, Chongzhen once dreamed of flying dragons surrounding the pillars of the palace, and once continuously shot goldfish that augured auspiciousness from 2 wells. In the spring of the 7th year of the apocalypse, Wei Zhongxian donated 200 peonies to Chongzhen, and the first variety on the list was Yupeo Huang. As a result, in autumn, Chongzhen succeeded to the throne. When Chongzhen was in power, there were continuous droughts in various places. He personally presided over the ceremony of praying for rain and begged God for rain. Unexpectedly, just as he finished praying, there was thunder in the sky and rain poured down. Hearing that Zhang Tianji of Longhu Mountain is very profound, Chongzhen specially invited him out of the mountain and held a celebration called Longevity of the Jubilee, Elimination of Demons and Protection of the Country, which lasted for 49 days. After the celebration ended, Zhang Tianji closed his eyes and wondered, and after opening his eyes, he told Chongzhen, disasters and monsters, God has ordered the Arctic blessing sage and Zhenjun to be beheaded and expelled. The country will last forever, and there will be thousands of sons and grandsons. That sounds good, but it's actually not a good thing to say. Beiji Yusheng Zhenjun refers to Emperor Suan Yu, whose image is similar to that of the Manchus. This implies that the Manchu Qing will sweep Li Zikin down and become the ruler. And 10,000 sons and grandsons indicates that the Ming dynasty can only be passed on to Wan Li's grandchildren, that is, Chongjin's generation. Zhang Tianji didn't dare to reveal the secret, so he had to convey the message to Chongzhen in secret language. As for whether Chongzhen understood the deep meaning, it's hard to say. Shortly thereafter, Chongzhen had a dream. In his dream, he saw a person, but he couldn't see his eyes, ears, mouth, and nose clearly. He could only see a big yes written on his face. After waking up, Chongzhen told the eunuchs around him that everyone congratulated His Majesty and said it was a good omen. But within a few days, Chongzhen received an anonymous letter, which said, "Your Majesty's dream is not a good thing, because the word yes means that Daming will lose half." Chongzhen Longjian was furious, and ordered the arrest of Shanshu, but no trace could be found. Some people said that Shanshu might be a spy sent by the leader of the uprising army Li Zikin, deliberately to disturb His Majesty's mood, so Chongzhen didn't take it seriously. 3. In 1643, the battle between Chongzhen and Li Zikin was imminent. On this day, he dressed in civilian attire and quietly came to the Beijing market, wanting to see the situation of the common people. At the corner of the market, Chongzhen noticed a fortune teller at a booth. At this time, he remembered the dream he had once again, so he approached and asked the fortune teller with a smile on his face, "Sir, can you test the fortune teller for me?" The fortune teller raised his head, looked at Chongzhen deeply, smiled and nodded in agreement. Chongzhen took out a pen and wrote down the word "you" in his dream on the paper. The fortune teller took the words, looked at them carefully, and asked, "Sir, what do you want to ask?" Chongzhen asked with concern, "How is the fate of the Ming dynasty?" The fortune teller frowned, stared at the words for a moment, and then opened his mouth. Unexpectedly, he gave the same answer as the Shanshu. Chongzhen's heart sank, and he changed his words, "I made a mistake, it should be a friend's you dot." The fortune teller looked Chongzhen's clothes up and down, grinned and said, "Recalculate a word, and you need to charge another fee." "It doesn't matter." As he said that, Chongzhen immediately took out an ingot of broken silver from his pocket. The fortune teller took the silver tael, weighed it in his hand, and said, "The word friend is even worse. The word friend comes from the word anti. I am afraid that the rebel army is about to become a big deal." After hearing this, Chongzhen still didn't give up, and changed his words and said, "Then it is actually the word in Zi, Wu, Mao, and Yu." The fortune teller pondered for a while and said, "The character is the supreme one, but the head and feet are removed, which indicates that the life of the king is in danger. Wait and see." Bold. The guards around Chongzhen immediately took down the fortune teller after hearing this. Chongzhen waved his hand, signaling the guards to let go of the fortune teller, and took out another ingot of broken silver from his pocket. This time, the fortune teller refused to accept anything. Chongzhen thought the fortune teller was overly frightened, so he let him go. Just after walking a few steps, Chongzhen faintly heard the fortune teller muttering in a low voice, "I don't dare to accept money from people who are about to die." Chongzhen's heart trembled, and he began to feel extremely worried about the upcoming war. He left the character testing booth in a hurry. His thoughts were extremely chaotic, and he fell seriously ill after returning. 4. Chongzhen never thought that this fortune teller was actually Songzhians, Li Zikin's chief advisor. On that day, Songzhians was ordered to disguise himself as a fortune teller and sneak into Beijing to investigate the local situation. Seeing that Chongzhen cared so much about Daming's fortune, and watching his speech and clothes, he had already guessed Chongzhen's identity, so he took advantage of the situation to lure him into the game and defeated his psychological defense. In 1644, Li Zikin sent his troops to break through Beijing. Chongzhen failed to return to heaven, and hanged himself on Meishan. The Ming dynasty was completely destroyed, and Songzhian's words were all fulfilled. Wu. When Chongzhen came to the throne, the Ming dynasty had already reached the brink of decline. Although Chongzhen worked very hard, in the face of such a situation, it was difficult for one person to reverse his fate. Whether it is the emperor in history or each of us, we will encounter various difficulties and choices when facing challenges and difficulties. Relying on superstition or avoiding reality is not an effective way to solve the problem. Only by facing up to the essence of the problem and drawing strength from setbacks can we better meet the challenges of life and ultimately succeed.